Mr. Zhu Feng is Associate Professor of Tourism Management at Shandong University, China. The main part of his research includes brand economy and management, urban and regional economics, as well as planning and development in tourism. His recent publications are based on niche theory and focus on urban brand construction in the blue and yellow economic zone of Shandong Peninsula. He has published extensively within these areas. He has also worked as a consultant for many of China's provinces and cities in the area of tourism, planning, and brand management. Mr. Feng Shu.
Okay, thank you. So my topic is the risk evaluation model of tourist development in the process of resource-exhausted cities transformation. So a little different with the previously lecture and focus on accessible tourism. My topic is focused on the city's transition from the past manufactured cities to new service industrial cities. So we think the restructuring and developing tourist industries in China, resource-exhausted cities, contributes to the regional integration of tourism and promotes the tourist economic flow transfer from the developed tourist cities to the less developed tourist cities so as to achieve barrier-free travel in space level. So previous lecture is focused on the demand aspect. That means the disabled need to find easily facilities to enter the tourist destination. With my viewpoint, I focused on the supply side. That means the destinations, especially those disabled cities, they want to develop a new industry. So during the new path of development, what kind of risk will they take in the development? So my case is in China and in the northeast region. That means the fast developed coast region, Shandong province. This is Shandong, a little near the sea in the northeast China. And the city of Zhaorong is near the Blue Lake. That means in the past time, this is industrial cities focused on coal mining and some heavy industry. So this is the map of the cities. We can find in the center, the red line, the place is the old downtown, which focused on the mining. And the other blue circle or green circle is some new regions for tourist destinations. And these cities introduced the tourist industry for almost 5 years. But with the development stage, we can find some problems. So we take this region as the research objectives and to find what is risk should this destination take if it develops the tourist. So this is the main contents from the introduction, literature review, and so on. So I will give us promote some introduction. That means the resource-exhausted cities face with many problems generally. Tourism industry is selected as a substitute industry by numerous such cities. In China, we have almost 667 cities. Among these cities, almost 100 cities facing the resource-exhausted problems. So they must introduce new industries. So, but if you want to find new industries, many risks exist in the process of developing tourism industry. So this paper takes Zhaorong city of Shandong province as an example to research it. So from the literature review, we find most related research abroad are about industrial heritage tourism. Researches in China are still in initial stage. So just as I said, so maybe in China cities, we have some facilities for the disabled, but in the concept of accessible tourism, it's very new and very rare in the industrial level. So most related researchers are quantitative researchers. Quantitative researchers are relatively fewer. So after conceptual discussion and definition review of risk, this paper defines risk as bad outcomes or and uncertainty uncertainty. So risk research method uses the fuzzy synthetic evaluation model and the analytical hierarchy process. So we divided the risks of a destination who in transition into 4 types. First is industrial risk, and second is operational risk, and competitive risk, and cooperative risk, 4 types. So in these 4 types, in industrial risk, we will find the destination facing industrial fluctuation. That means the economic not is stable. And the second is environmental damage. So tourist development is not always green, always healthy. Sometimes the tourist industry will hurt the environment. And the third one is social cultural conflict, because when we transit from the industrial cities to service cities, it must have some conflict among the culture. So second one is operational risk. That means financial, human resources, and governmental-backed sustainability. Last is environmental resources limitation. When we come to the competitive risk, that means we can divide it into lacking market demand and competitors' development substitute products, and the last is the insufficient skill of tourism industry. And the last is cooperative risk. It can be divided lacking support from related industry, because the industrialized cities, they focused on the heavy industry, so they are not very good at the service industry. And the second is failure to transfer labor. Because the city's labor is focused on the old industry, so they are not very good at the service industry. Last one is city image transformation. City image, people have a stable impression about the old cities, so they can't transit the city's image to a new one. So after the research, we find either all these kinds of 4 types risk. The most important is operational risk and the cooperative risk, because in these kind of destinations, there are lack of the resources to make a good operation in tourism industry, and also they have less chance to cooperate with others. So these 2 risks is most important, and the industrial risk and the competitive risk is less important. To Zhejiang City, we find all the risks is over the medium level. So that means to these cities, if they want to change to the new tourist destinations, it's not always safe. It will face some new challenges and some risks. So maybe sometimes the governor and the industrial developer players, they like to change the cities from the manufacturer cities to service or tourist cities, but it's not always safe. Sometimes they must facing this kind of risks. So in secondary indicators, we find the most important risk is insufficient skill of tourism industry risk. That means in this kind of cities, especially in China, pupils focused on those famous destinations. To this kind of transition destinations, they are very rare, so the tourist amount and the tourist output is not adequate to support this kind of transition. And the second is financial risk. That means the operational problems and industrial fluctuation risk. So the transition way is not always sustainable. Last one is failure to transfer labor risk. So the labor is focused on is rely on the manufacturing industry. So if you want them to change to the service industry, those persons or human resources are lack of the capabilities of tourist operation. So these risks should be paid more attention to. And at last, our conclusion is according to different risks, some suggestions as follows. First, we should build a brighter city brand. If those less developed cities want to attract tourists, so they should have a bright image in the market. And the second is propagate different city image to different types. We should to attract different content. And the third is improve the investment environment and adjust internal structure of tourism industry and enhancing living environment and cultural soft power and so on. So in the future research, we want to find the investment behaviors of city investors with different risk preference after risk assessment should be investigated, and the Bayes model could be introduced to supplement this evaluation model. So in conclusion, we think, especially in China, we're facing radical change totally. So to accessible tourism, we really have some facilities between different cities, but to organize a successful, accessible tourism, we need more effort to this field and try our best to make progress. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to ask you a question about your model. I'm assuming that it's a conceptual model. Have you applied that model at all anywhere in China?
It's a conceptual model. Have you applied it somewhere?
You mean not only in China?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And where did you collect the data? And I was just curious. It suddenly struck me as someone, at one time in my career, I was heavily into modeling. That would be a very useful way to provide those who are interested in looking at the risks versus perhaps the benefits, particularly from a financial angle, and particularly for state officials or city officials to consider how much money they would have to put in to convert certain sites to being accessible versus what the benefits might be.
Yes.
So did you collect some data, and if so, what did the results show?
Yes, so this is an initial study of this field. So in the past time, all of the research is focused on the qualitative analysis. So I wanted to use some mathematical method in this kind of research. So I invited several, almost 30 experts in this field to make the make the figures, the score about each aspect, and use their questionnaire, the result to make the evaluation about all these items.
Oh, so you're actually in the process of having some people use it to collect the data? You haven't yet got the data to assess?
We haven't have the real data about the output of the tourist development. We use the expert
okay.
APHK analysis, analytical hierarchy process.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.